Hines. I'm the administrator of Club W here at North Kansas City Hospital. And we have Diane Parker with us today. She is a dietitian on staff with us here at North Kansas City Hospital. And I personally suffer from IBS. And I heard a couple nurses overheard them actually talking one day and saying, well, all you have to do if you have IBS is change your diet. And they were kind of like snickering and kind of like, people are so stupid. Why don't they do this? Why don't they do it on their own? Why don't they change their diet? So I was like, well, that's great, but how? Or what am I supposed to eat? Or, that type of thing. So that's why I thought it might be good to hear about IBS from a dietitian. And looks like we've got a few more joining us. Thank you very much. So anyway, I'm very interested to hear what you've got to say, Diane, and I'm going to let you go ahead now and start your presentation. You might share a little bit for the gals who maybe didn't hear a bit ago, where you're from, how long you've been here, and just kind of your duties here at North Kansas City Hospital before you start your presentation.
Sure, yeah. Well, good afternoon. My name is Diane Parker, and I am one of the registered dietitians at North Kansas City Hospital. I've been here at the hospital for maybe 3 years, but as a dietitian, longer than that, way longer than that. I do outpatient services, so everything that is GI, IBS. I see a lot of patients with IBS, diabetes, hypertension, all kinds of therapeutic diets that we do. So we're always here to help. If you want to come and see us after the presentation, just to get more a personalized diet for you, we can always do that. You just need a referral from your doctor. So like Dottie was saying, I've been here for maybe 15 years in the US. I'm from Costa Rica originally. And I don't like winter, but I like Kansas and I like Missouri. So, and I want to pull up the presentation. If you guys have questions at any time, don't hesitate to send your questions, and we're gonna go through the questions at the end of the presentation. So feel free to ask all those questions. So, what are the dietary modifications for IBS? Like Dottie was saying, many times people just say change your diet, but it is very easy to say change your diet, but don't explain people how. So let's start with the basics. This is the advice that I get most of the people that I see. No matter if you have IBS, no matter what conditions you have, you know that eating processed foods, junk food, and fast food is not gonna be good for you, right? But when you have IBS, it's gonna be even worse for you because that's gonna trigger your symptoms. It's gonna cause bloating, discomfort, and depends if you have constipation or diarrhea, this can make it worse. So I always advise people to stay away as much as they can from fast food and junk, right? Get your protein. Make sure that you're getting protein with every meal. We're gonna see that chicken and turkey and fish are gonna be very good for an IBS diet, and you don't have to worry about those foods. Sometimes if you're having pork or sausage or bacon, things like that, those are gonna be very high in fat, and those can cause issues. But in general, if you're having leaner cuts of meats, it's gonna be fine. So, and just cut on the simple carbohydrates. Again, this is advice that I give anybody. Donuts for breakfast and cookie are not gonna make anybody feel good, no matter what kind of condition you have. We're gonna talk more about IBS friendly snacks. Get your water and avoid diet foods. And this is very important because many foods that will tell you they're sugar free. So if we have sugar-free cookies, sugar-free soda, or diet soda, they're gonna have a type of carbohydrate that is very damaging for people with IBS. And you always have to incorporate healthy fats, right? So it is important to remember there is no one single strategy that works for everybody. It is more like trial and error, but we have a pretty much understanding of what the diet can do. So always keep a food journal and see if you get any symptoms. Write down what you're eating, and maybe we can make it easier when you come and see us. So let's talk about dietary therapy. Always make sure that you're not having big meals. If you only have 2 meals or 1 meal a day, your symptoms are gonna be worse. It is always advised that you have 4 to 5 meals if you can per day, and of course, meals have to be very small. You have to learn how to chew your food really well. Most of us eat our food really fast, swallow our food. If you set a timer, you will find out sometimes that you can eat in 5 minutes. I know I can because I'm busy, and you're not paying attention. So make sure that you're chewing your food really well, taking your time with your meals, at least 20 minutes when you are eating, to help your GI break down your food better. That's why we have teeth. We got teeth to make sure that we're chewing and eating well. Make sure you're getting enough fiber. Most people don't get enough fiber. So 25 grams of fiber is the minimum for females and 30 is for males. That is easier said than done. It's very hard to get that much fiber. So sometimes you can use fiber supplements like flaxseed, chia seed, metamucil, which is a psyllium type of fiber that it has proven to be very helpful for people with IBS. And I have two different types of fiber in here. The one who is called low FODMAP relief fiber, that is approved by the people who develop the IBS diet, and that will be very helpful for people with constipation, diarrhea. If you drink a lot of coffee, for some people, coffee can be a trigger. So you have to find the right threshold which you feel good with the coffee, but not having too much, right? Alcohol intake is not good for anybody if you drink too much, and that can cause a lot of issues too. So gotta be mindful with that. Spicy food, that just depends on the person. Some people will do okay with spicy food. Some people are not gonna do too good with spicy food. So make sure that you are one person who's doing okay. Increase the fluid intake. That's another issue. Most of us are very busy all the time and we forget to drink our water. Many times people drink diet sodas and other products, juice, but the main thing that you should be drinking is water. And we'll talk more about what kind of fluids and what you can drink in this diet. So the name of the diet that we use for IBS is called low FODMAP diet. It's an elimination diet. So the main purpose of this diet is to eliminate some foods that cause symptoms for people with IBS. And we know that over half, even more of the patients with IBS can associate a trigger in their symptoms with when eating a meal. So most of the time you feel those bloating, distension, diarrhea, constipation right after a meal. So what does that mean, FODMAP? Right, so that stands for fermentable, oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols, right? I know that's a mouthful, and what I want you to understand is those are different types of carbohydrates that are found in different foods, and we're just eliminating those to make you feel better, right? So what is the psychological process of this elimination diet? Why do we do this elimination diet? So the Monash University is the one who developed this diet, and what they say, and after that many years of research, because they've been doing research for about 12, 13 years in this diet, they say that when those FODMAP foods reach the colon, the bacteria ferment the sugar and they turn into gas and chemicals, and that stretches the walls of the colon, and that's what it causes the abdominal bloating, distension, the pain, the cramping in many people. And some other people will have diarrhea, constipation, nausea, and other symptoms. So that is the science behind the elimination diet. So what are those fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols? When we're talking about fermentable oligosaccharides, we're talking about things like wheat, beans, lactose. Many people will have lactose intolerance. So taking away milk, yogurt, ice cream. In the fructose, we can get off of honey, watermelon, apples, and the sorbitol and mannitol. Those are the sugar alcohols. So everything that is like sugar-free gum, sugar-free ice cream, like I was mentioning, blackberries, apples, pears. And when you come and see a dietitian, we'll give you a list of things that you can eat and things that you should stay away from. So this diet is very, it works. So in 70% of the people with IBS, if they follow this diet, they see improvements. That is why I do like this diet a lot. Um, it should not be followed strictly for the rest of your life. So I know so many people will say, I cannot have apples anymore, or I cannot have onion anymore. It's not like that. You're gonna just restrict yourself from those foods for 2 to 6 weeks, right? And then we're gonna add them back and see which food is the one that is causing your issues. So there are three phases of this diet. The first one, like I say, is elimination. We're gonna eliminate the foods that cause most of the symptoms based on research. Then we're gonna do this for 3 to 6 weeks, and then we're gonna add them back. After we add them back, we know that, okay, so you're fine with lactose, but you're not okay with apples and or anything that is from that group. So we're gonna personalize your diet to make sure that we add more nutrition and the food that you're able to eat, and just trying to stay away from the ones that you cannot eat most of the time. So in the phase one, like I say, it can last 2 to 6 weeks. And we determine how long you do this elimination phase based on symptoms. If you do it for 3 weeks and you're starting to feel well, you have minimal symptoms, then that's okay, we can stop. Some people need 4 or 5 weeks to start feeling better. So that is up to the person and how sensitive they are to some foods and how long it takes their body to clear the, uh, the other foods that are in their system. So we'll eliminate the food for those weeks. And so what can you eat and what are you supposed to eliminate? Like I say, we give you a list of foods that are supposed to be high on FODMAPs. Most meats, like you see, meats are fine as long as they're not processed with sauce, or as long as they're not having any breading, anything like that. If you see with the fruits, apples, mangoes, dry fruit, peach, nectarines, plums, watermelon, pears, those are gonna be your highest on FODMAPs. But there are so many other options that you can do. You can do oranges, you can do grapes, you can do kiwi. So we make it as easy as we can for you. So we say, okay, choose from the low FODMAP choices and try to stay away as much as you can from the high FODMAP foods. Of course, while you're doing this diet, I prefer that people don't eat out because it's kind of difficult to find out which restaurants, how they cook, what kind of ingredients are they using. As you see, we have to stay away from garlic and onion, and many foods have garlic and onion sauces. And when you cook and eat out, that will be one of the things that you have to be mindful of. I would not recommend doing this elimination diet if you're planning a vacation or you're traveling, if you're having family over, because you got to make sure that you are planning this ahead of time and have what you need. So what is a day of eating looks like for low FODMAP, right? When you're doing this elimination. For breakfast, I put a couple of options in here. You can do 1/4 of a cup of old-fashioned oats. You can use cinnamon to make it sweet. You can eat blueberries and walnuts. You can have lactose-free yogurt. So everything that we do with milk, it has to be lactose-free. You can have the oats in the morning with the blueberries and maybe the yogurt for snack later if you feel like this is too much for one meal. For lunch, you can do grilled shrimp tacos with salsa verde. You can do cabbage and shrimp. Corn tortillas are part of the low FODMAP diet, so that would be fine. And dinner, maybe you can have sloppy joes with salad. You can have gluten-free bread. And I want to show you these products are called FODI, and they are very available in their website. They are approved by the Low FODMAP diet. So you can have tomato basil, ketchup, and barbecue sauce, nut bars. They make all kinds of products that are low FODMAP to help you make it easier when you are doing the elimination diet. Because if you follow the diet but you continue to use your own ketchup and your barbecue sauce, those are gonna be sometimes high on high fructose corn syrup, which is a food that we don't do during the elimination phase, or in garlic and onions, which is another thing that we don't do during the elimination phase. So there are options and there are other products that you can use during this diet. And so that's something that I like. This company, Smoking Insanity, they do make low FODMAP seasonings, and so you can make barbecue. They have essence of garlic salt. They have all kinds of products that you can use, and they're gut friendly, like we call them, because they're really good for people with IBS. Sometimes people ask me, okay, I am a vegetarian or I'm vegan. Can I still do low FODMAP diet and don't eat meat? So the answer is yes. You can still do a low FODMAP diet and don't eat meat. You just have to be more mindful to get your protein. There are many options of protein sources during the low FODMAP diet. Sometimes I advise to get a protein powder too, like this one over here that is called Evolve, because that will help you get the protein that you need. But doing chickpeas, canned lentils, edamame, nuts. You have a variety of nuts that you can do: macadamia, Brazilian nuts, pecans, pine nuts, walnuts, peanuts. And you can use things like chia seeds, sunflower seeds, and pumpkin seeds. And those are for everybody too. Those can be good snacks. So I have here in the slides how much protein you can get from different sources that are not just meat. I know sometimes people want to take a break from meat, and that's good. So tofu, if it's firm, you can use tofu. For people who don't know what edamame is, it's just soybeans. You can get them at any grocery store, and they come in a shell. So you have to take them out of the shell, but you put them in the microwave. They come in a frozen bag, and you can put it in the microwave. Um, but it just gives you a list of different foods and how many grams of protein they have in here, just to give you an idea that you can get protein not just from meat, but from other foods too. And again, you can do peanut butter, 2 tablespoons. You can do nuts, you can do quinoa, you can do brown rice, millet and oats, all kinds of stuff. Everything will have a little bit of protein, and that's okay during the low FODMAP diet. So we're done with phase one, right? And we eliminated all those foods that are causing the issues, and now you feel good, you feel better. We're gonna go to phase two. And I know many times people tell me, oh, I feel good. Why would I want to introduce those foods again if I finally feel good? But it's important to add them back, because an elimination diet can be too restrictive. And we don't want to be so restrictive all the time, because you can be malnourished by not having enough foods from different nutrients. So you don't want to stay just on the elimination phase forever. We want to introduce the foods again to make sure that we find out exactly which group of foods is the one that is causing your symptoms. So let's say we're gonna start with lactose, right? So you can do milk, you can do ice cream. If you are able to tolerate lactose, then that means you're fine with that group. But let's say we're gonna introduce the fructose group. You can do watermelon. Um, let's say you're having issues with that, then we know that the whole fructose group is an issue. So we're not adding um, many foods at once. We're adding one food at a time from one group, and then finding out if that's causing the issues. And we walk you through this. We'll help you with this adding foods back. So same thing with the fructans. We do onions. We can do onions or garlic and see if you're able to tolerate that. Every group has one food that we can start with. So just to give you more an example, when we're adding food back, and sorbitol is just a type of carbohydrate that it causes people issues. So let's say you love mushrooms, right? So you wanna start with mushrooms. You can do day one, you can do half of mushroom. Day two, you will do 2 mushrooms, and then the day three, you will do 4. And you will be wondering, what are we doing this in 3 days, and what are we increasing? The whole reason for increasing like this is because some people will be okay with 2 mushrooms, but not with 4. So you know that you are able to tolerate a little bit of this food, um, and how much you can. That would be just liberating, so you can add more things to your diet. Same thing with dairy. If you want to add 1/4 of a cup of milk, we'll add the first day. The second day, we'll add half a cup of milk. And the third day, you can have 1 cup of milk, and you can just record your symptoms like you see here in the slide. So if you're not having any symptoms and you know you can do half a cup of milk, so you know that's your max that you can have in one day. If you got symptoms and you're not feeling well, then you stop. You don't have to increase it. And you just keep the diet in the background the same. You're gonna keep a low FODMAP while we adding foods. You always want to have 3 days introduction of the foods, and then just 3 days or just waiting period where you're just letting your body reset before you introduce something else. So it will take about 6 days per group. For the fructose challenge, you can do honey, and again, you can do half a teaspoon of honey the first day. You can do 2 teaspoons of honey the second day, and then the last day you can do just 1 tablespoon of honey. Let's say that you have mild symptoms the last day. I would say if you're not too uncomfortable with the symptoms, feel free to continue adding a little honey to your meals or whatever it is that you're putting honey on. Same thing with the onions. When we're adding the fructans group, you can do 1/8 of the onion one day, and the same concept we're gonna do with every group. 1/4 of the onion the second day, and then half of the onion the third day. You don't have to eat it raw. You can cook it. You can eat it like that, or you can try something else in that group. Um, and always record your symptoms. We're just gonna be a detective for your own body and see which foods are causing the issues or not. Same thing with beans. We know beans causes issues to most people, but we need to find out how much beans can you tolerate in one day in one setting. So after we're done eliminating and adding food back, we're gonna liberalize the diet, and we are gonna go through the journal and see, okay, so you're able to tolerate beans, you're able to do honey, let's add those back to your diet. And you're not able to do lactose, but maybe in 6 months, I usually recommend people to try again with lactose, because many times we can feel better and add it a little, and then it won't cause you any symptoms. So this type of foods, they're not going to give you an allergic reaction. It's very different from allergic reactions. If you have an allergic reaction to something, you should stay away from that food forever. But FODMAPs are different. They just cause symptoms here and there. So you are able to add them later in life, and you might be feel okay with just one little portion of it. I talked about fiber on the first slide. Most of us don't get enough fiber, and you can get plenty of fiber with the low FODMAP diet. And so if you're doing fruits, you know, raspberries, rhubarb, kiwis, mandarins, strawberries, passion fruit, and oranges, you can add all those to your diet. For vegetables, you can try carrots. You can have as many as you want carrots. You can do green beans, potatoes, and remember that the skin of the veggies and the fruits are gonna be the highest on fiber. So make sure you're just washing it really well and try not to take the skin off. Um, and then check food labels. Like if you're buying bread, you can compare the bread and the label to see which food has more fiber. Let's say if you're getting oats, so you're getting some gluten-free bread, and you can compare two gluten-free breads to make sure to find the one that has more fiber. If you feel like you're doing all that, you're adding lentils and chickpeas and nuts, and you still don't get enough fiber, you can always use as a fiber supplement, like Metamucil, like I mentioned before. But there's so many options of fiber foods that you can add that are low FODMAP, like I mentioned here. Um, Nuts, you can do macadamias, you can do almonds, you can do peanuts, rice, you can do flaxseed, chia, all kinds of stuff. So prebiotic rich foods, you make sure that you're getting some prebiotics, and you can do that in the low FODMAP diet too. As you see, I have a list of foods that have prebiotics, and what that means is just that it's healthy fiber, healthy nutrients for for your bacteria in your gut. You know, we have good bacteria and bad bacteria in our gut, and sometimes we need to feed the good bacteria, and we use prebiotics to feed the bacteria. So using bananas, pomegranate, rambutan, and vegetables that can help with that. So make sure that you are adding healthy prebiotics to your diet. Just because you're following elimination diet doesn't mean that you should restrict and don't eat fruits and veggies and try not to eat. Sometimes when people have IBS, they are very afraid of food. So the recommendations are to at least get 2 serving sizes of fruits per day, 5 to 7 of vegetables, dairy products, 2 to 4. And you see, I have a list of things that you can do during the low FODMAP plan. You need healthy fats, so make sure that you're using that in moderation too. Fish and poultry, meat, things like that, 2 to 3 servings per day. Bread, cereal, rices, the carbohydrates, pasta, noodles, things like that. Make sure you're doing about 4 servings per day. And when I talk about a serving is around 1 cup. I like this to use the healthy play method because it gives you an idea of how to balance a diet or how to put a diet together. If you're planning your meals or you're planning just like what am I gonna have for lunch, make sure that you always have your starch, your protein, and half your plate is vegetables. You are not this elimination diet is not for weight loss. Sometimes people want to do it for weight loss, but that's not the intention of it. And sometimes people wonder, would I lose weight, did I gain weight? That just depends on the person, and we are not doing the elimination diet to lose weight. So but if you have balance with your meals and you are making sure you're not just eating carbohydrates and having a little bit of protein, veggies, and starch, you can see just in general that you're gonna have a healthy diet. You're not gonna gain weight. So I put some meal ideas to see what else you can eat when you're doing a low FODMAP diet. Um, so you can do gluten-free oats. You can add chia seeds. You can do if you're doing milk, you have to lactose-free milk. If you're adding yogurt, you have to lactose-free. You can do a banana, and you can sprinkle some cinnamon, and that will be a good breakfast. So for snacks, you can do nuts, you can do rice cakes, and that brand over here is any kind of rice cake that is gonna be gluten free is gonna be good for that. For lunch, you can make chicken tenderloins, so you can do sweet potatoes, you can do bell peppers, baby spinach, chickpeas are fine. You can use garlic infused oil to cook your chicken. Spices like cumin, coriander, cinnamon, ginger are all fine, and quinoa is always a good option too. So if you want to make some dinner and you're gonna make stir fry, you can do beef, you can do carrots, you can add green beans, boy chog, ginger, you can do chili, you can do a little bit of soy sauce, and you can do some steamed brown rice in the bottom. So the diet looks good, it's healthy. This meal has vegetables, it has meat, it has carbohydrates. That's always what we want, that combination. So what can you drink? Um, Coffee, it is tricky because depends on the person. Some people do okay with coffee, some people don't, right? So I will leave it up to the person to see if they want to do coffee and how much coffee they want to do. Cranberry juice is part of the low FODMAP diet, so that will be you can do 4 ounces of juice. Teas, if you're doing peppermint, black tea, green tea, ginger, white tea, those are all okay during this type of diet. For people who have a lot of gas, indigestion, and bloating, peppermint and ginger are usually really good for that. But if you have acid reflux, you want to stay away from peppermint because that will cause more acid reflux. I know I put some alcohol in here because people always ask me, can I drink? Can I have any alcohol? If you don't drink, I don't recommend you drinking. But if you wanna drink something during the weekend once in a while, gluten-free beer is fine, gin, whiskey, and if you're drinking wine, limit it to 5 ounces per day, right? So moderation, make sure that you're not overdoing it. Water is always what we want you to drink, and make sure that you're getting a lot of water. There are different herbs that you can use to flavor your food. So garlic and onions are out while we're doing the elimination diet, but you can use things like parsley, coriander, thyme, basil, rosemary. You can do spices like cumin, coriander, turmeric, things like that. Garlic infused oil is fine. Garlic by itself is not, but just garlic infused oil is just because of the way that it is processed. Chives are fine. The green tips from onions, ginger, lemon and lime juice, maple syrup, salt, pepper are fine. If you make stock or you buy stock, make sure that you're buying one that doesn't have onions and doesn't have garlic. Chili powders are fine. You have to make sure that you're not buying one that has capsaicin because that can trigger some symptoms. This is the book that I use for recipes and to provide help people with help. It's called The FODMAP Diet. It's written by a dietitian and she has IBS, I believe. And it has wonderful meal plans. It has diets. It has recipes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It has ideas on how to do elimination diet. It explains the diet really, really well. So if you're interested in knowing more about the diet and what is okay to eat and not, I would recommend this book a lot. And I just put some recipes in here to show you that you can still have healthy, fun meals during this time. If you have kids, I know it can be tricky because you're thinking probably I don't want to be cooking a meal for me and then I'm cooking a meal for my kids or for my husband. Anybody can eat like this while you're doing the elimination diet. You just have to make sure that you're planning ahead and making fun meals like this. That will be like a breakfast that we talked about. Cranberry juice is fine. Um, so let's talk about some different cooking techniques that will lower the FODMAP content. So as you see that if you buy canned lentils and chickpeas, those are okay during this diet. You're gonna make sure that you're draining the water and rinsing the beans to make sure that you're getting as much as you can of the content on the food that is causing the issues. So choosing canned rather than fresh beets is better. Like I say, getting rid of the water where you're if you're making your own beans, if you're making your own chickpeas, boiling them and just getting rid of the water to make sure that you're eliminating that. If you like tofu, if you're choosing firm tofu, it would be better because the pressing of the tofu will eliminate the FODMAP's content. Boiling rather than roasting the vegetables sometimes will help. So with butternut squash, spaghetti squash, things like that, or sweet potatoes, if you boil them, it will be better for that. And like I say, boiling and straining is one of the best process to get rid of the high FODMAP content in some foods because those will leach out in the water. So other things that to consider is that the ripeness of some fruits will make you bloated or make you feel uncomfortable. Sometimes the storage, the climate, and I know there's a lot to think about, but I just wanted to point out that we say bananas are fine, but we like them to be firm. So if you look at the graphic in here, around 3 to 4, that's where the banana you can have during this diet. It will give you better results, but it's the opposite with pears. So pears sometimes are better off when they're like ripe than when they're unripe. So again, the FODMAP diet can be individualized to meet your needs. It can be flexible. It doesn't have to be super strict that you're doing it and you're like, okay, I forgot that I cannot eat this. Now I messed up and I have to start all over. So it's not like that. You can just continue with the diet. And if you notice anything that you had that it triggered your food, just write it down and make note of that. Label reading is important. Like I say, it's best to stay away from processed foods when you're doing this diet because processed foods are pretty tricky. They have a lot of those ingredients that they're not good during the low FODMAP diet. So if you are reading things that have fructose, high fructose corn syrup, honey, fruit juice concentrate, fruit pieces, and you know the list goes on and on and on, right? So for the polyols, everything that is a sugar alcohol, sorbitol, mannitol, xylitol, if you see that OL at the end of the word, that means that it's a sugar alcohol, and many people get very discomfort, diarrhea, bloating. So you gotta try to stay away from those. Even people that does not have IBS have a lot of issues with the sugar alcohols. And of course, if you're buying spaghetti sauce or barbecue sauce, ketchup, things like that, they're gonna be high on garlic, salt. Sometimes they have high fructose corn syrup. You have to try to stay away from wheat and rye and inulin. So those are some things to look for when you're looking in a label. Other considerations, sometimes people with IBS-C, which is constipation, they have a hard time going to the bathroom, and sometimes it doesn't get better after a couple of weeks with the low FODMAP diet. So the studies in kiwi are showing that kiwi is very good helping with constipation. So having 2 small kiwis per day, that will help you meet your fruit intake and it will help you with constipation. That's something that you can think about it because the consumption of kiwi is naturally safe and it can help manage constipation. Other things to think about is that you gotta make sure that you're getting enough sleep. You know, IBS can be very stressful. It can be people sometimes worry, can I make it to the bathroom? Can I go and hang out with my friends? Can I exercise? So it can be a very stressful condition. So make sure that you are sleeping, you're exercising, you're managing your stress. Um, if it's becoming to the point that you're having a little pain, discomfort, seeing a therapist will help with this too. Don't suffer in silence. Make sure that you're using your team of people who wants to help you to get through this. Um, this is the university who developed this low FODMAP diet. It's called the Monash University, and they do have an app. So when you download the app, it's about $8. But it will give you recipes. It tells you which foods are okay to eat, which foods are not okay to eat, and that will be a quick reference to. They update this often, and they do tell you which products are low FODMAP, and they have tons of information for IBS. So I just want to remind everybody that following a personalized low FODMAP plan does not cure IBS, but it might lead to drug-free management and just better quality of life. So it is worth give it a try. And that's the end of the presentation. I will open up for questions.
Hi there. That was wonderful. Thank you very much. I do have a question right now, and if you have any, please go ahead and enter them in the chat or in the Q&A section. My first question is, I have GERD and have been using Nexium for 2 months. Should I stop using it, or is it okay to use for long term? If it's not okay to use for long term, why not?
Okay, that's a good question, but I will prefer you ask that to your doctor. Whoever prescribed that for you, they know your diet history and they know your medical history better than I do. So I know many medications will say do not take for longer than this, and if you talk to your doctor, so that would be a good question for your GI doctor.
Okay. I have another question. It's just simply about getting a copy of the presentation sent to them, and I will send that when we're finished here. Any other questions? I'm wondering, I've heard of people having food allergies. And is that, I mean, some things obviously, some people are allergic to peanut butter, strawberries, different things. And they actually cause them to, their throat swell, that type of thing. But isn't IBS kind of like having food that you're allergic to? Not necessarily allergic, but it's like your body does not like.
Sensitive. So food allergies will be completely different than IBS. IBS will be more like you're sensitive to those foods, but they don't cause issues all the time. That is why IBS is so tricky, because you can be able to tolerate 1/4 of a cup of milk today, but then 3 weeks later you have it again and you might not, right? So yeah, it's not like a true allergy, but just like a sensitivity to some foods.
Okay. And then as far as milk and that, is there any difference between whole milk, skim milk? Is it pretty much milk in general, or does it make a difference depending on if it's 2% or whatever?
So for IBS, depends on the person. Sometimes a whole milk, because it has more fat, and if you have constipation, it's gonna slow down the transit of things. So if it's constipation what you're dealing with, you might want to do 1%, 2%. Again, if you want to lose weight too, you want to do the lower fat milk. Mhm.
Okay. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions, so I thank you very much for helping us today. If there's any questions afterwards, please send them to me and I can ask Diane from there. My email address is Dottie, Dottie, .Hines, Hines, at nkch.org. And if you'll send those to me afterwards here, I'll get those over to Diane and she can answer them. I can respond back. Thanks a bunch. Sure appreciate you joining us today. Hope it was helpful for you. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.